Good evening and welcome to Trailblazer Stadium in Lakewood, Colorado. This is the fourth stop of the Women's All-Star Ultimate Tour, and tonight the All-Stars are going to be facing off against local hosts Denver Molly Brown, the reigning South Central Regional Champion. I'm Ian Toner. I'm joined by Ultiworld's Katie Reynolds. And Katie, there's a lot of interesting history between the All-Stars and a lot of the younger players and even coaches on some of Molly Brown.
Yeah, in addition to having Dory Franklin and Megan Cousins, who are both Molly Brown players, a lot of the women on the All-Star team were recently in London on the U23 team, where their coaches were Molly Brown captain Carolyn Matthews, Lauren Boyle, as well as coach Mike Whitaker, who's coaching Molly Brown for the first time this year. So it'll be interesting to see if they're going to recognize some of the same sets.
So we see the game getting underway. The All-Stars starting on defense. Opie Payne starting as the center handler for Molly Brown. And Katie, that's one of the big name pickups that Molly Brown added to their roster this year in this offseason.
Absolutely, and she's already become a really interesting part of Molly Brown's offense and defense. Not a star in the same way, but actually that could be a positive for them. She really gets to just do what she wants to do on the field.
We see her distributing a lot, and she finds Becca Miller wide open in the end zone. Another one of those rookies coming over from Chad Larson experience this offseason. And that was a pretty easy hold for the Molly Brown offense.
Absolutely, and Becca Miller has not been talked about enough as a pickup for Molly Brown, and she's huge. She played for Iowa State in undergrad. She did a grad year, I believe, at Colorado State, and she is just fast, and she will make big plays on both sides of the disc, offense and defense.
Another U23 veteran as well. She played on the mixed team that won gold in Toronto in 2013. So as we take a look here at the All-Stars offense, we've seen them, you know, obviously everyone on this roster is a dynamic player capable of fulfilling their responsibilities on both sides of the disc, but we have seen some loose structure to their offense and defensive units so far. So what are you looking to see from the initiation, this starting movement from the All-Stars offense?
I think what's going to be really important right now, especially with this gusty wind, is that they learn to play a little bit more of possession offense. They've certainly taken some shots in some of their games already, kind of some gutsier deep shots because they've got those deep receivers. And some of those haven't worked out for them. Some have, but in this wind, and particularly with some Molly Brown defenders, they may not be able to get away with that.
Great point. And just to clarify for those of you tuning in on the stream, the wind is going pretty steadily from right to left across your screen. So a bit of a downwind here as Pitt Caithley rips one deep to Jessie Schaffner, and she's able to snag it right before the end line. And as we talk about the All-Stars offense, you know, they're still trying to figure each other out, get chemistry in place, but that is one connection that has been especially potent, even from their first game against Seattle Riot.
Absolutely. Those two have been looking for each other the entire tour, and it has been working out. You can see them celebrating. And it's been great. I think Schaffner was fighting off a couple nagging injuries during U23, and you can really see that she is clearly back to full speed and can really run those down. She's doing the same thing earlier in the tour.
It's funny, I was taking a look at some of the All-Star team's content that they had pushed out after their first few stops. And I can't remember whether it was Jessie or Pitt Caithley mentioned in an interview that, yeah, you know, we had one informal practice with some Riot players before the first game, and they taught us this one pull play, and then Lisa and I ran it against them repeatedly with a lot of success. So it looks like it's working well on other stops along the tour so far.
All the way down the break side, and that's two really fast holds for both of these teams. So we'll see if the All-Stars can, you know, get this break and try to take over that upwind end zone. They've shown they've been able to do that so far in the tour.
So we see Carolyn Matthews centering the disc. Sorry, that's Lizzie Laurie. Ashley Morgan with a great catch.
It's interesting that they've got Jana Kutzinger in here. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher her last name, but she's actually practice playing for them this season. And that's one of the questions going into this game with Molly Brown having a big tournament ahead of them, is how tight are they going to play these lines in this essentially showcase game.
And that's the first turnover of the game. As we see a little dump miscommunication and a deep shot goes up, but Megan Cousins adjusts. Cousins again playing against her home club team here. But that dump is out of the reach of Margot Sturt, and Molly Brown's offense is going to regain possession.
Looked like they were just a little bit rushed. It looked like Sturt might have been thinking about her next throw there.
Matthews finds Lizzie Laurie, who shoots deep to Maggie Chen.
Great grab.
And Chen able to reel that in, getting some nice deep separation. And after a shaky turnover at midfield, Molly Brown's offense gets the disc back and holds.
That was a really confident play. They look like they know what they're doing out there, and it doesn't look like the All-Stars were quite ready to respond to that quick break.
So everyone having a lot of success downwind so far.
Yeah, we'll see what the All-Stars have to answer. They're going to have to score quickly, but this game's going pretty fast. They had a chance outside that end zone, but just one fumble, and looks like for Molly Brown that's going to be all it takes if they're going to convert that quickly.
So Molly Brown getting set to pull here. We see Opie Payne preparing to pull, and looking at the All-Stars offense, we're seeing the usual suspects with Schaffner and Picaithley, who should be cutting. We also see Callahan winner Alika Johnston, Riot rookie Jacqueline Verjus, Pitt's Carolyn Normile.
Carolyn's really been a breakout star just over the last year. She was captaining Pitt's team and brought them to nationals for the first time in years and years, and really was a big part of that record for them.
And a great possession-saving grab. Good read by Chyna Titcomb as she goes up line and gets the disc back. And Alika Johnston with a fantastic move to shake her defender, but can't quite leap to make the grab.
I'm willing to bet with that play, you know, everyone has such high expectations from Alika. I think everyone was counting on her coming down with that. That's just kind of the play that we've gotten used to seeing her make.
Yep.
Those big saves.
So Chastain shooting up line, and that's just past the reach of the bidding Molly Brown defender. Another great matchup to keep your eye on here. We've got Jacqueline Verjus, a budding young star, a budding young star in the women's division who absolutely bids a fair amount as well. She and Alicia White, one of the legendary players in the women's division, are matching up right now as we see the All-Stars turn the disc over once more.
Verjus is headed to Dartmouth next year, and I think they are pretty happy to have her. I know a lot of college programs were really hoping she would come their way, and I think that's going to be huge for Dartmouth in the next few years.
Interesting that she'll be heading east, but still able to compete with Riot in the series.
True. It's her dream. She said to me months ago her big career dream was to play for Riot, and she accomplished it pretty quickly. I think they're also happy to have her.
So Opie Payne with the disc. Gets swung over to Becca Miller.
Carolyn here on Handler D. She's been playing that for most of this tour. Oh,
Verjus and Payne go up for that disc, and it looks like Verjus won that one. She's unmarked right now going deep, but Johnston can't find her. Here's Titcomb.
Walrus. It's by Schaffner in the middle. You'll know she'll take something if she sees it.
Back to Schaffner. 5 yards outside the end zone now. A nice little break to Haley Walrus.
That's a teammate look right there. They both recently won a national championship with Oregon. And while Walrus is still a pretty young star, Schaffner has 5th-year eligibility, and I believe she's taking it. A great find, but still just another hold. No one has really had that break opportunity upwind yet.
Yeah, and the turnovers have gone relatively quickly. So that brings us to 2-2 here in this matchup between the All-Stars and Denver Molly Brown. Thank you to those of you who are tuning in, and a reminder that a major sponsor of this All-Star Ultimate Tour is Eric. Early recognition is critical. They employ Ultimate Frisbee clinics and tournaments to teach youth about body and cancer symptom awareness and the importance of healthy living. So great to see them supporting everything. And we know this tour wouldn't be possible without their help. So Molly Brown's offense getting set up here. We're seeing a poachy look with some handler sags from the All-Star defense. Maybe trying to take away some easy downwind huck looks. And Dina Slattery is wide open deep, and the disc goes up to her. Will she be able to keep it in? Just outside the goal line.
She's been a key player for them both in the backfield and downfield, and that's an easy score. And that's another hold. 3-2, Molly Brown up with the natural break. It's interesting, the All-Stars have been playing that kind of junky defense on the handlers and transitioning out of it pretty quickly, but it doesn't look like it's been giving Molly Brown too much trouble, particularly there with the big look, and it looks like they kind of just missed Dina in the backfield there.
Yeah, it was a definitely a junky look to start. And Slattery just kind of slipped out of the coverage.
Great composure throwing into a crowd there, but it worked.
So as the All-Star Ultimate Tour rolls into town, there's also some other action going on this weekend. We have the next stop in the Triple Crown Tour. It's the Colorado Cup, which is featuring 16 teams from around the country in the open, women, and mixed divisions. And Katie, a number of these players from the women's tour are going to be competing with their respective club teams on Saturday and Sunday.
Absolutely, that will be exhausting on their legs, to say the least. This tour was already going to be tiring.
So we see the disc center to Titcomb. She finds Big Capely under. Schaffner's going deep, and she plants for a nice undercut. A quick offhand throw and gets it right back.
Great movement.
And Schaffner shooting deep to Kate Scarth, who's wide open in the back corner of the end zone. Schaffner has a motor on her.
Absolutely. I'm also glad that Kate Scarth has been playing a great tour so far, and she's not a player that people hear about a lot because she's been playing for University of Victoria, but she had a stellar national championship performance, really being the playmaker for that tour. And she's been playing on, I think she's been on 3 of the Canadian national teams, the U19 and U23, I believe both mixed and women's. So she's been a big name on the Canadian scene and within the college division, but we don't hear about her as often as I think she deserves, and she's huge downfield.
Very athletic cutter, willing to throw her body around and capable of getting some good separation in the lanes.
Absolutely. It's so much fun to watch Chyna, Schaffner, and Pitt Capely play together. They're all shot takers, but they're smart shot takers, and you can see when you put them on a line like that, they really just move it down the field forcefully.
So Schaffner has actually been involved in every All-Star score so far. She's got 2 goals and an assist. And the All-Stars coming down on the pull with some more sagging lane poaches, trying to prevent the easy deep shot. Payne with the disc on the flick sideline. She finds White. White up to Claire Chastain, 2013 Callahan winner. Back to Payne. Dishy to White, it's tight space.
Really got good composure here, working through this. It looks like they're being forced to take a couple more fakes and looks than they have in a lot of these points so far. I'm going to really have a little more composure. Oh, not a score. Well, almost.
And that's
another hold.
Tina Snodgrass getting open on the force side. Great patience there from the Molly Brown offense, willing to swing the disc around a few times. And
And it looks like the All-Stars were a little bit tighter in that open lane on those downfield defense, so it really forced Opie Payne to kind of take a couple of those fakes and look around. Snodgrass has historically been a big scorer for them, and makes sense to find her in the end zone there. Now I believe score is 4-3. Molly Brown still holds the natural break. And there have been very few break opportunities so far. There haven't been a lot of offensive points even close to this upwind end zone.
Absolutely. We haven't seen too many break opportunities, and those few we have resulted in turnovers so far. So as we take stock of the tour's progress so far, we had an exciting opening in Seattle. The All-Stars jumped out to a big lead, and probably should have won by a larger margin than they actually did, but Riot mounted a great comeback in the second half.
Yeah, it really looked like they let go of that game a little bit in the end, and Riot really tightened up and showed the elite team that they were. And I'd love to see a little bit more of that battle in this game as well. So far the score is tight and could continue to be tight, but I'd love to see a couple more forced Ds. There's been a lot of throwaways, or not throwaways necessarily, but kind of missed connections.
And a nice high release backhand there from Haley Walrus. She finds Schrader, and she looks upfield for Verju.
No
but
call.
Sally Lambert gets the disc, and
this could be it.
This is going up, but the throw is going to be just off target. Lambert can't quite get there. It's a great matchup as well, Lambert and Jacqueline Verju. Both strong, big lane cutters who know how to use their body to maintain position.
Yeah, I'm surprised, well not surprised, but Versu didn't call a foul on that. That was a very physical D.
So Schaffner, just too far for Haley Walrus.
It's another opportunity for Molly Brown. We holster the big throw and try to really work it from here with patience.
And that's Dina Slattery with the disc now. Becca Miller, about 12 yards outside the end zone, takes a shot deep. And a great bid from Erin Schrader.
Great bid, but that's the break.
But Lauren Boyle, one of the assistant coaches of the women's U23 team, is able to hang on and make the grab, and that's the first break of the game, giving Molly Brown a 5-3 lead.
Yeah, and scoring on one of the players that she coached, the U23, Erin Schrader, whose name you might also not recognize quite as much. She plays D3 with St. Benedict's, but has really helped that team go to the D3 national championships for the past few years, and has been a great handler in the backfield, both for St. Benedict's and also for this All-Star Tour so far.
And it's the way the All-Star Tour has been able to recruit and assemble talent. We've got players from all over the world. We have players from smaller schools. You also have the big-name players from, established college programs and club teams. I think Chyna Titcomb and her team have done a great job bringing together a true all-star squad that's really representative of the entire community.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's interesting talking to some of them about the U23 team, but I think it carries over here. They talk about how easy it's been to play with each other because they already trusted and respected each other from playing against each other in college. And they're kind of that respect really enables them to play well together and find more chemistry after only having one practice before this tour.
So the All-Star offense is going to have to work upwind, and Nora Mile will field the pull. Little confusion on who was going to grab that one. Scarth comes under for the first grab. Now Schaffner out to Verju, and she's off to the races again. Schaffner with a great catch. She's got Picathley going deep, and she's going to put it up. Schaffner versus Lindsey Cross.
Great grab.
And I'm not sure what more Cross could have done. Picathley did a great job to hold her position, and Cross had to attack early to try and get a finger on the disc, but unfortunately for Cross, the wind just favored Picathley on that one.
Yeah, and that was a great matchup as well. Cross has always been a very physical, big defender and big in the air, and I think that Picathley is probably one of the few players who can safely, go toe-to-toe with her and best her like that. It's a great hold for the All-Star Tour, bringing it to 5-4 with Molly Brown in the lead. And I wonder if both teams are just getting a little bit more used to this wind and we'll see more upwind scores and looks.
Yeah, and just taking a look at the flags, you know, obviously we're not out on the fields like we were before the game, but it looks like the wind has died down just a little bit as the sun's gone down.
Yeah.
We'll try and pay attention to that as the game goes on.
Something interesting to note for those handlers who are in the backfield there, obviously a lot of that score came through Schaffner, but seeing Chyna, Alika, and Carolyn in the backfield, those are 3 really confident, dominant handlers. And I have to wonder if you put those 3 there knowing they're going to take care of the disc going upwind. Molly Brown with another opportunity.
So that's Ashley Daly Morgan, wife of Johnny Bravo's Ryan Morgan, catching that under.
And another one of the bigger pickups for Molly Brown this year, coming from Scandal.
Mickle finds Opie Payne. And there's a collision there. The disc is in Opie Payne's hands. Not sure if there's any kind of injury or foul call preceding that, a pick call, the observers are clarifying. Payne's gonna bring the disc in at stall 1. About 20 yards outside the end zone, a nice inside shot.
Great find.
Back to Payne, and she shoots across.
Great D from Stevie Miller. She's playing with Ohio State, won the national championship with them.
And when we get a chance to look at the replay, you'll see that Stevie didn't quite see that throw go up, but she turned her head at the last second and was able to get a hand in the lane. But
great
I don't know if you got to say conservation of greatness, because
yeah.
An unfortunate turnover right after that break opportunity. We do have a foul call. I believe Steph Lim is calling a foul. I'm not sure if this will give the disc back to the All-Stars or not.
This is a bad place to have that turn. I don't have to say that right outside this end zone again.
Again, the All-Stars trailing Molly Brown 5-4 here in the first half. Molly Brown has only converted 1 break opportunity. All-Stars haven't converted any. Disc is going to come back to Stevie Miller, and she'll have it on her own goal line.
So you just got Steph Lim there in the backfield. Steph having come from Stanford, where she was a key handler, helping them get to the finals at Nationals.
And
drop from Stevie Miller.
so Molly Brown is going to have the disc once again.
Megan Cousins on the mark, marking her own teammates.
And a fantastic block from Hannah Leathers on Ashley Morgan. Something that she was known for in her Callahan campaign was her intense defense. And she lives up to the billing right there. And she's going to shoot deep for Steph Lim. But I'm not sure if the wind got under that. Just went a little bit too far.
Yeah, I don't know if Steph Lim had the angle on that she might have hoped.
And Katie, Hannah had a tremendous career with UGA Dogma.
Absolutely, she was a big part of why they became dominant in that region.
And Mickle shoots a mid-range deep shot that can't quite find Ashley Morgan.
I believe that's their second deep range mid shot that hasn't connected going upwind like this. They might, without trying to tell them what to do, they might want to holster that for a little bit and try to have some patience going upwind.
So here's Leathers, gets the disc off the line to Lim, around to Miller, and Miller with a drop. Saw her look upfield just a split second before she could reel that one in. Payne with the disc. Katie, this is definitely the longest point we've seen so far this game.
Yeah, which I kind of enjoy. It really lets teams settle into this defense, and I hope it says that they're playing tighter, though there's been a couple shots and a couple execution errors. Great save.
Katie Patterson a rookie on Molly Brown this year with that tremendous grab.
Yeah,
Mickle goes off the line.
she's been surprisingly big in the backfield for them. Oh, nice.
And Ashley Morgan shoots into the end zone, finding Tanya Reitz, who's just come over from the mixed division, local club team Love Tractor. And Molly Brown ends the marathon point, and they now lead 6-4 here in the first half.
Not the neatest point we've seen so far, especially as the wind is starting to die down, and that can no longer be as much of a factor. But I'm hoping that we get to see some more tight physical defense from both of these teams. They've both shown glimpses of being able to really hold to that and put pressure, particularly with Versu and Lambert in that play, and especially Hannah Leathers. I'd love to see the All-Star Tour kind of turn it up and really show that kind of defensive ferocity. And this looks like a good line for it, too, with Schaffner and Versu out there.
Yeah,
I believe that's Lisa P.
Yep, and it looks like got Alika Johnston calling the string there. Wouldn't be surprised to see Schaffner or Pitt Caithley wheel under across and find the other one streaking deep, but we'll see what play they end up running.
Molly Brown gets ready to set. Again, it is 6-4. This will be a good hold for the All-Star Tour, but they need another break. It's been interesting to note they haven't been running very set O and D lines, which we kind of knew that they were going to do because they're all pretty around players. Oh.
Pitt Caithley finds Schaffner under, and Schaffner tries to rush that dishy back to Pitt Caithley and gets picked up in the wind, and Molly Brown's going to have another break chance here. Remember, they're up 6-4. They've converted one break already. Slattery with the disc on the flick sideline, and she's going to blade deep to Alicia White, and she's alone. That's 7-4 Molly Brown after that unfortunate turnover.
Wow, and it looked like Walrus in the end zone wanted to become part of that play, but really did not have the positioning to challenge that. Great look. You can see it, IO flick, and it's just going over the defender's head, and Walrus can't do much about it. It's an unfortunate turn for Schaffner. Unfortunately, she's had, for all of her strengths, she's had a couple of those trigger-happy moments in her college career. She's still a powerful player, and when she's got the shots, and they can connect, but an unfortunate misconnect for them.
So 7-4, Molly Brown leads the All-Stars. One of the bigger holes they've been in on their tour so far.
Yeah, I mean, aside from traffic really taking it to them in that game, they had a pretty dominant win over Schwa, and they had that absolute battle with Riot. So we'll see if they're able to fight back from this and really, put the pressure on and take over offensively. They still have Versu out on the line. I would love to see her dominate in the backfield and really, kind of capitalize on that height and that power.
So Applegate with the pull for Molly Brown. Gets centered to Chyna Titcomb. Alika Johnston slashes across. Titcomb to Walrus, back to Verju. Verju and Lambert, another one of those great matchups to keep an eye on. Scarth gets it back to Verju. Verju stepping through the mark, drawing a foul.
I love the Cross and Pitt Caithley matchup in the backfield there. Pitt Caithley won that one last time, but I'm sure Cross is looking for some redemption.
And Titcomb with a nice little high-release flick, backhand into the end zone for Alika Johnston. And the All-Stars get a much-needed hold. They still trail 7-5 here in this first half, but that offensive point looked a lot smoother than the last few.
It looked like they were looking a lot more for the more creative break side looks than in the past points. Really looking for what all their options are on the field rather than just looking downfield.
Right. So it looks like the All-Stars might be calling a timeout here, trying to stack their defensive line and turn the momentum in their favor. So we see Hannah Leathers getting set to pull. We also see Megan Cousins out there. Stephanie Lim.
Cousins is a fantastic defensive player and has been for Collie for all of her time there. I think she or Dory have a 5th year, but regardless, Cousins has been a huge D-line part, so it makes sense that they have her out on this point when they really need that defensive fire. It looks like they've got Brereton out there as well, who's been great so far, really physical and good height in the backfield, or downfield for the All-Star.
So Margot Sturt pulls for the All-Stars. Just gets centered to Dina Slattery. No poaches or any junk here from the All-Star defense, just good man looks. As Payne gives and goes, gets the disc back on the flick sideline, looking to reset. Back around to Slattery. Up to Lizzie Laurie. Marked by Brereton, and Laurie with a flick blade.
Oh.
Just out of the reach of the bidding Molly Brown receiver. And the All-Stars are going to have a chance to get a break back here.
Dory picking up the disc. She's got Steph and Aaron in the backfield with her. Excuse me, Steph and Hannah Leathers.
Sturt gets the first under on the break side, and she's going to rip it break backhand deep. She's got Megan Cousins in space, 10 yards outside the end zone. Looking to find a reset. Finds Schrader. Around to Lim. And Lim, after the nice dump and swing, over to Cousins, but this is going to come back on a pick.
Regardless, this is a great position for the All-Stars to be in right now. Right outside this end zone to have this break and this hold. Really keeping Molly Brown on the doorstep of taking half.
And Lim just does it again. Finds Megan Cousins at the 4th side cone. The All-Stars get a break back. And right now it's only 7-6 Molly Brown.
I imagine Molly Brown, for them, it's too close to comfort, especially talking to Claire Chastain before this game. I think they had big expectations to absolutely dominate this game. All right, let's see if the All-Stars can break again and really make this a tie for half.
As we take a look at the All-Stars defensive unit, we see a couple players staying out there to run it back. Steph Lim, Schrader,
Brereton,
Megan Cousins, Dory Franklin, Margot Sturt. Largely the same line.
It's one of those, if they're hot, don't change anything.
As we see 2015 Callahan winner Alika Johnston giving them defensive instruction before running off the field. Alika just graduating from the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. She's also a mainstay handler on Washington, D.C.'s Scandal team, the defending women's club national champions.
Yeah, she's been a dominant handler in club and college for the past few years. Really, since she was a freshman, she's been a name to talk about. And she has the ability to just take over games with her speed and her throws.
So Matthews centers to Chastain. Can't find the right isolation look off the bat. Matthews gets it back, finds Chastain, and she's going to rip an inside-out backhand that's going to float in this wind. Franklin's under it, and the wind takes control of it at the end.
Lauren Boyle's got it.
And she finds Becca Miller at the front cone. A great opportunity for the All-Stars to get under that disc, but well read by Lauren Boyle, and Molly Brown is able to score and take half 8-6 on the All-Stars.
Great halftime score. I think it's about as close as I would have expected it to be. Obviously, they were trading points and holding for the first couple.
So thank you for tuning in to the first half of this Women's All-Star Ultimate Tour stop in Denver, Colorado. We are going to take a break and go off the air for halftime, but please stay right here. We will be back with second half action. Welcome back to Lakewood, Colorado. This is the 4th stop of the Women's All-Star Ultimate Tour, where we have the All-Stars facing off against Denver Molly Brown. And Molly Brown taking half 8-6, converting 2 of their 5 break chances in the first half. The All-Stars only converting one of their 5 break chances as we see a short field turnover here from the All-Stars. I'm Ian Toner. I'm joined here by Katie Reynolds. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And Molly Brown is off to an electric start in this first half as Maggie Chen rips an inside flick to Crystal Davis, another one of Molly Brown's big off-season pickups.
That was such a confident shot there. That was such a powerful forehand inside from Maggie Chen, who's one of the captains of Molly Brown. And indeed, she's been a big force for them in the backfield, but you'll also sometimes see her downfield. Her confidence on the field, though, is noticeable. And what a statement as we come into the second half. Speaking of breaks, that was a quick and forceful one for Molly Brown.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see if they take over the second half.
Yeah, we were talking at halftime about how the start of the first half, the start of the game was a little predictable, both offenses running smoothly, no break opportunities coming until later in the half. But Molly Brown just willing to put their foot on the gas pedal right here out of halftime.
And it's interesting that looked like it was a drop from Carolyn, particularly since for a lot of the first half there weren't a lot of obviously forced turns. A lot of it was those drops and those small execution errors. So it's interesting to see if Molly Brown takes over. I think they'll probably have to actually earn some of these Ds or have a little bit more pressure.
So Molly Brown now up 9-6 on the All-Stars. So we see this pull, downwind pull going up. Gina Titcomb going to center to Haley Walruse. Schaffner gets the first under. Verju able to hang on to that one. And there's a travel call. Schaffner really loves to throw and go, no matter if it's going to be a plant and run your forehand or a continuous running backhand. She's just a high-energy, high-pace offensive player.
I think Keith likes to call her a little wrecking ball or a freight train. She's got a lot of power. Finding Versu again.
I think Alika was the bite-sized wrecking ball. I think
right.
that was her. That was the nickname that Keith gave to her. So Gina Titcomb with the disc now. Inside.
Oof.
That flick goes just past the reach of Alika Johnston.
You could tell she didn't have a lot of options there. I think she took that a little faster than she would have preferred.
Lizzie Laurie pumps the deep shot and then unleashes the backhand. She's got Ashley Morgan deep, turning to adjust, and she's able to clap catch that. Jessie Schaffner in pursuit wasn't quite able to get there. And that's another break for the Molly Brown defense, and they're now up 10-6 here in the second half.
That is Lizzie Laurie's signature throw. She played for Colorado College for 4 years, and she was a huge part of why they made it to nationals for the first time in 2014. And that throw was just famously unguardable from her, and when she decides to throw that big backhand, it's going. And that point could have been it. 10-6 is a big differential for All-Star to come back from. They've shown they can hold in these games, but they're really going to have to lock down on O here and, reduce these small mistakes that Molly Brown is really converting on quickly and not giving the disc back.
And as we, look ahead to not only the rest of the tour, but the rest of the club season, you have to think, at least in a setting like this, Molly Brown's big off-season acquisitions, a lot of those players from Scandal, and even the lesser-known ones like Becca Miller coming over from the mixed division, are really fitting in well on both sides of the disc for the Molly Brown team tonight.
And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that they really overhauled their process this season. With new coach Mike Whitaker, they've really said that they're kind of starting a new system so everyone can kind of be on the same page.
Hannah Leathers is going to shoot deep for Lisa Pitt-Catley, but that flick is going to fade out of bounds. And you saw that flick hold its edge. That's something that's going to happen when you're here at elevation. At sea level, that might have flattened out a little bit more. But when you release those IO flicks, anything with an edge, it's going to maintain that edge here at elevation. So perhaps a little adjustment that the All-Star Huckers are going to have to make here in the second half.
It's interesting we haven't seen that develop as much so far in the game or come to fruition.
Dory Franklin gets a hand on that disc, but Payne makes the grab, and Shoots a Blady flick deep. Tremendous bid from Lauren Boyle, but she can't reel that one in. Walrus picking up 5 yards outside her end zone. Finds Leathers. Cousins going deep, but she pumps that. A big around backhand to Steph Lim. Back to Dory Franklin. All-Stars really using the width of the field here.
Yeah, that's not something they've necessarily done throughout this game, but it could make a big difference if they keep swinging it back there and finding those spaces. Oh.
And that throw goes just too far beyond the reach of Haley Walrus. Molly Brown's defense is going to pick up once again.
And that's one of the few opportunities that the All-Stars have really gotten back from Molly Brown. It's unfortunate that they couldn't capitalize on that because they may not get another. Oh, again, I spoke too soon. All-Stars got another chance.
So Steph Lim is going to pick up for the All-Stars.
Looks like Leather's going to go into the downfield space and let Walrus come back to handle.
Walrus swings to Dory Franklin. Franklin, another one of the players on this squad who's competing against her own club team.
Though it's interesting with her being marked by Opie, they probably haven't had that much playing time together this season so far.
Pitt Caithley finds Lim. Their Fury teammates, and Lim with an IO flick. And Opie Payne's going to have plenty of time to get under that one.
That was a gutsy throw, knowing that Opie was there and pretty close on that throw.
Payne shoots deep. And a fantastic grab over Hannah Leathers by Tanya Reitz. Again, one of the mixed division pickups from Molly Brown this year, coming over from local team Love Tractor. And that throw goes past Reitz, but into the arms of Tina Snodgrass, and Molly Brown breaks once again. They now lead 11-6.
That was a great look from Kirsten Johnston, another rookie coming from Collie. She's been a great handler for Collie Ultimate for the past 4 years. Really a fast handler on offense and great handler defense, so I don't know if we've seen as much of that tonight. But she's a great young athletic pickup for Molly Brown this year, and I'll be interested to see how they kind of slot her into their backfield.
So as we look at the All-Star offense, they've really got to find some confidence here. Molly Brown coming out of second half with a 3-0 run.
I know. It's a lot of these, like we said at the beginning of the game, All-Star, the All-Star team, they can take some of these shots and they can come down with a lot of them, but a lot of these away looks haven't been connecting, and that with a couple of these drops, some of these elite teams aren't going to let them get that disc back. Though I also have to wonder if coming across the country and taking that long ride, if the All-Star Tour isn't maybe just a little bit tired, which it's okay for them to be, but certainly on the defensive side, there's a little bit less of that intensity that we saw during the Riot game in their first stop on this tour.
And, aside from the whole traveling fatigue factor, you also have to factor in that this is their 4th game in 5 nights. So here's Johnston slashing across, and she gets hand blocked by Dina Slattery. I thought that was going to come back on a foul call, but a great mark from Slattery.
Yep, just bumped her hand up there right in time. Let's see it again. Wow, what a D.
Slattery gets the first under. She finds Alicia White. White with an outside-in backhand to the front corner of the end zone, and Molly Brown breaks once again. This is 12-6, a 4-0 run to start this second half for the Molly Brown defense.
You've got to wonder if the All-Star Tour is going to start making some adjustments, or what they're talking about right now on the field coming together. This is a big deficit for them to pull back from. It looks like they might be taking a timeout out on the field. Kind of collect their thoughts.
This does look like a timeout. Definitely looking at the 2 huddles, it's a tale of 2 different teams. Molly Brown jumping up and down, and the All-Stars trying to regain their composure.
Without reading too much into it, it's got to be disheartening to have, you know, one of your quote-unquote star handlers have Alika Johnson hand blocked in that point. She's not a player that you see that happen to a lot. It's, you know, it's frankly surprising. And that's got to be surprising for them. I mean, a lot of them are talented handlers, but, you know, to hand block the Callahan winner, especially to make it 12-6, it's a statement from Molly Brown.
So as we look forward to the rest of the tour, the All-Stars' next stop after this weekend at Colorado Cup, I think they're heading to Atlanta next week as they head out east and battle all of the East Coast teams. As we see this pull go up from Molly Brown. Hannah Leathers there to field it. She finds Jessie Schaffner on the first under. Schaffner finds Walrus. Walrus up to Scarth, and Scarth shoots deep. Alika Johnston has separation.
What a find.
Where has that offense been this second half, Katie?
Gosh, that was just an incredible offensive point for them. Just the confidence coming from Schaffner finding her teammate Walrus. Walrus seeing Scarth easy on that under, and it's like Scarth knew that Alika was going to be there, and Alika's got that speed to create that separation. I think she already had some to start.
And that's not a position you normally see Alika Johnston in. She's usually one of the people throwing the disc to the first person in the string or making that first undercut to be able to boost it deep. But Kate Scarth did a great job making that grab and then finding Johnston deep.
And it looks like Chastain was giving her a little bit of that space, maybe expecting her to come under on that throw and have that reset. And I think that Chastain, that was just her positioning, and Alika capitalized on it. So maybe it wasn't even a matter of her being beat, but I think Chastain was expecting a different move. Didn't even have a chance.
We've been talking about all these great matchups that we're seeing on the field. You take a look at Chastain and Alika Johnston, two women from the Atlantic Coast region who've won 2 of the last 3 Callahans, have also represented their countries on under 23 teams, and Alika has won 2 club championships as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think of them as such different players in terms of their style. Chastain's very physical, whereas Alika's got that kind of that speed. But you're right, the similarities are incredible. I'm sure Chastain just wants to get that the club championship as well to match.
Yeah, to her credit, she does have the edge in having won an under-23 gold medal, and she also won gold with the women's beach ultimate team as well.
So her shelf's not empty.
Fair to say. And here's Matthews with the disc. Finds Alicia White.
Looks like they've got good separation. They have a lot of room to breathe in the backfield there.
And here's a deep shot going up to Maggie Chen. All-Stars not able to hold the mark there.
Just uncontested. I believe that was coming from Jana, who's, I believe, practiced playing this year for Molly Brown, but great backhand, and she was huge for them last year as a handler.
So that brings us to 13-7. Molly Brown in the lead against the All-Stars. So as we take a look at the crowd we've got here, estimate around 400 people. We'll be able to share some more official numbers afterwards, but I think it's fantastic that this event is coinciding with the start of the Colorado Cup, because you're able to get not only support from the Colorado community and the Colorado Ultimate community, you've got a lot of players who are coming in early for the tournament and able to take in this game as well.
And I think we'll continue to see people roll in as people's flights arrive. I know a lot of people, their flights are coming in mid-game and they still want to make the trek. Aurora's pretty close to Denver International without getting too technical, but I think a lot of people want to come see this game and see what this looks like because they've got the opportunity.
Absolutely. So 13-7, Molly Brown holding a convincing lead over the All-Stars so far.
Yeah, they've got a short march to close this out. And I think it really comes down to the All-Star. They obviously have to hold on this point, but they're really going to have to turn up their defense if they want to keep themselves in this game.
So Leathers centers to Johnston. Schaffner was the first ISO, and Pitcaithley fills. Back to Schaffner. She loves giving and going with Pitcaithley, but that throws just a tad too far. Those two have, as we were mentioning earlier, had great chemistry thus far in the tour, but tonight they just appear to be out of sync, maybe moving a little too quickly.
Yeah, and maybe that comes to, you know, the disc is flying a little bit differently. You could even see Pitcaithley looking like she wanted to bid on that one and deciding against it.
And there's a foul, as it appeared that Leathers got a bit of skin in addition to some plastic there. Lizzie Laurie with the disc on the flick sideline.
Lisa Pitcaithley putting a big mark on her, not giving her that around at all.
And Kate Scarth gets inside position on Tanya Reitz, reaches around her and snatches that disc away. The All-Star offense gets the disc back. Pitcaithley approaching the red zone, resets to Johnston. Pitcaithley and Johnston have matched up in the national final the last 2 years, and Schaffner finds Pitcaithley with a tremendous grab. Schaffner ripping that one in there, and Pitcaithley fully extending, hitting the ground, making sure she was able to reel that one in.
Those two love to put on a show, particularly Lisa P. loves to make those showy plays, and she did so with the burning skirts for years.
As we take a look there, we get another look at Kate Scarth's block that got the disc back for the All-Stars. And Pitcaithley laying it all on the line there.
Just add that to her Callahan video. It's one of the best Callahan videos, men and women, I'll say, from the past few years, and it's because of plays like that.
Not arguing with you on that one.
Wow.
So perhaps some signs of life from the All-Stars.
Still 13-8. Molly Brown's got a pretty big lead, but let's look at the defensive line that All-Stars have out here. I believe that's Megan Cousins out there. Here's some chants from the crowd. Got Steph Lim out on defense again. Margot Sturr has been playing a couple of these defensive points, along with Brereton, I believe.
Titcomb will pull for the All-Stars.
Classic Titcomb pull.
Applegate fields it, centering up to Opie Payne. Finds Alicia White, and Payne looked like she was just going to take off deep, but turns around and White resets to Sally Lambert. Becca Miller, open under. Miller's been open all night.
Oh, huge collision between two of the Molly Brown players. Looks like there's just a miscommunication about who is going to be going for that disc. And again.
So the All-Stars get a chance to break here. Brereton with the disc. Resets to Steph Lim. Lim to Titcomb. Titcomb being marked by Alicia White.
She's got a few options downfield. She's really looking.
Lim.
Close coverage there on Dory. She gets it.
Back to Lim. Around to Megan Cousins. Back to Lim.
The matchup between Paige Applegate and Dory Franklin is so interesting because these two have been playing against each other for years and years and have been teammates. Great
It's
bid.
Stevie Miller looking for Chyna Titcomb. Gets a hand on it but can't quite reel it in, and Titcomb's down. So we take a look. Titcomb tried to toe the line.
Big bid. Might have landed. You know, I don't want to hypothesize, but she stepped out of the play. First who's coming in for her.
Verjus and White matching up once again.
I think at this point in her career, I'd like to see Verjus matched up against pretty much everyone as an interesting matchup.
Agreed.
Just to see how people force her to do different things.
Agreed.
Oh,
And a great
save.
poach block by Steph Lim.
gets the disc back right away for the All-Stars. Lim around to Dory Franklin. Back to Lim. Back to Franklin, running a little handler weave there. And Verju continues the breaks, finds Stevie Miller in the end zone. Great patient red zone offense. Finally breaking the mark there when the chance presented itself. And the All-Stars now trail 13-9.
They've still got a ways to go, but that was pretty end zone offense, particularly, you know, Versu threw that backhand, just kind of knowing Stevie was going to be there, streaking.
We take a look at how the All-Stars got the disc back. Steph Lim keeping her eyes on the disc and stepping into the field.
Great look from Versu there.
So the All-Stars trail Molly Brown 13-9 here in the second half.
No wind anymore and the sun has gone down, so it's an even playing field between these two, and it's a matter of legs and grit at this point, seeing if All-Star can close.
Molly Brown took half on the All-Stars, 8-6, and then went on a 4-0 run out of half.
They've still got that cushion, but it looks like the All-Stars are finding their feet a little bit, definitely offensively. There you go, China's back on the field with the pull.
Good to see that she's okay, and this one's going to go in the back corner. Chastain centering to Dina Slattery. Looking for Lindsey Cross on the reset, but swings it around to Ashley Morgan. Morgan finds Slattery, and Morgan takes off. Chastain back to Slattery, and Morgan's deep.
Playing very, very possession-focused offense right now. They're not taking those first looks. They're kind of looking for the second and the third that are going to, you know, ensure 100% discs here.
Go, Ashley! Rack it!
Slattery anchoring the offense.
Rack it, Ashley!
Finds Chastain, who shoots deep.
Oh.
And that's just behind the Molly Brown receiver. Can't quite adjust. Titcomb's going to pick up.
She's got, looks like Aaron and I believe that's Steph Lim there in the backfield.
Carolyn Normal, I believe.
Carolyn over there.
Titcomb finds
There's
Lim
Lim
on the sideline. A nice IO flick to space. And Schrader with a great bid, but she isn't able to get there. Cross to Slattery.
Nice find.
Moving upfield, Dishy to Chastain on the flick sideline. Slattery open all day in the handler set.
Yeah, she's been having a great game so far, really using that speed, both downfield and back here handling. She had little challenge choices there. Oh.
Daly Morgan can't quite reel that one in.
It's an unfortunate bobble. I wonder if she was ready for that. I think Dina was really looking to put the disc up, getting a higher stall count.
Alika Johnston picks up for the All-Stars. Resets to Titcomb. Titcomb finds Jesse Schaffner under. Continues to Picaithley.
So Steph streaking deep there, but they didn't take it.
Normile with a nice dishy back to Picaithley. Alika Johnston earns an under. A nice inside flick break. Hits Gina Titcomb.
13-10.
And that's 13-10. The All-Stars making a little second half run here.
That was great defense. You could really see up there when they, you know, kind of forced that turn, I feel comfortable saying. You know, Dina really looked like she was ready to get rid of that disc and kind of threw a more rushed inside throw. That led to the Daly, you know, Daly's bobble. And the All-Stars were able to convert, just marching up that open side. So you're getting a nice inside look. They've had a couple of those, particularly throughout this tour, a couple of those killer inside looks right outside the end zone. It's just tough for people to predict and defend. Looks like another timeout.
Yeah, the All-Stars, not sure. Not sure.
Oh, and it's 13-10. Looks like Scandal's taking a timeout.
So coming out of this timeout, the All-Stars are going to be on defense once again. You see Jacqueline Verjou, Margot Sturt, Brereton, and Cousins, Stevie Miller, Hannah Leathers, and I believe that's Dory Franklin on the line as well.
A lot of the players that have been making big defensive moves for them so far in this game.
Taking a look at Molly Brown's offense. Got Tina Snodgrass, Maggie Chen, Lizzie Laurie.
Keep taking a look. This could be a huge point for the All-Stars if they get another break here and kind of start a small run of their own late in the game, just like Riot did to them, you know, really closing that window.
So Sturt pulls the disc, but looks like the All-Stars were offside.
Got a little too excited. All right, we'll see them pull again. Another one from Margot. Maybe she can get a little bit more air under this one as well. Got Jana in the middle here handling. She's been handling a couple times tonight. Big look.
It's a successful deep shot right off the bat for Molly Brown. Got the disc 5 yards outside the end zone, and a nice inside shot to Maggie Chen with the sarcastic head spike to top it off.
What a quick point from Molly Brown to make it 14-10, and they're right outside the door of just closing this game out again.
Should we take a look at where that deep cut came from? The cutter was isolated and then kind of drifted to the fore side, narrowing the throwing lane, but great delivery into space. Easy for the Molly Brown receiver to run it down.
And if they take this break, it'll be interesting. The All-Star will have their second loss by the same, point differential as they lost to Traffic, hitting that 15-10. And you have to wonder if they're, that score, if they're going to see that again. Kind of a dangerous 5-point lead. It's just something it's a little bit too much to close out.
Yeah. 14-10. Molly Brown on top, making a statement as they prepare for this Colorado Cup weekend. And as you survey the field and you think about the challenge that lies ahead, and a really deep field here at Colorado Cup at elevation in the heat, do you think getting this challenge and this warm-up game plays into their favor, helps them warm up and prepare for the weekend, or fatigues them unnecessarily?
Oh, another offsides pull. I would say for Molly Brown, they're so hungry this year, and so I think they're going to see any opportunity to play as a chance to really continue to build that chemistry, particularly between a lot of these players who haven't played together or haven't had as much experience playing together. Any opportunity to work out the kinks in their new system that, the coach and the Molly Brown leadership have implemented. I think they'll take any opportunity to run this.
Yeah, and talk about their season last year. They came into nationals in that pool of death with Scandal. No one was really sure how that was going to turn out. They had a lead against Scandal very late in the game.
Fantastic game.
Couldn't hang on, blew it, and that ended up kind of signaling the end of their season and that team not advancing quite as far as they had hoped.
Yeah. Speaking of, They just re-earned possession from the All-Stars. This is the opportunity that they want.
So Tanya Reitz is going to have the disc about
Quick to
30 yards outside the end zone. Disc swung to Lindsey Cross. Cross looking for Payne, and Alika Johnston with a great adaptive hand block. Cross certainly has the size on Johnston, but Johnston knew she was just going to favor that high release backhand and got her paws up there.
She was forecasting that throw. It's not a surprise, Lika. You know, she's got great reactions, but putting that in there, that
Johnston
may not be the
gets
matchup
open
they
on the
want.
dump with a nice outside in backhand shot. She finds Hannah Leathers in the back of the end zone. And the All-Stars aren't done yet. Alika Johnston's going to put her team on her back for 1 point if she can.
And it's interesting, that's a matchup. You know, Lindsey Cross is an incredible defender, but she plays so differently than Alika, and Alika's all about those quick, fast, small movements. And I don't know if that's the game that Lindsey Cross plays. So that may have been to Cross's disadvantage there, and Alika really could take whatever she wanted with that. And in that case, it was the assist.
You know, a deep shot, maybe Lindsey Cross comes down with that one 9 times out of 10, but if you're going to put them in a box and play small ball, I'm putting my money on Alika to get open.
I'm going to put my money on Alika for most situations, but that one too.
So the All-Stars still with their backs against the wall. Molly Brown with another game point. It's now 14-11, Molly Brown. Johnston giving defensive instruction to the team before they're set to pull here as we get another look at her great adaptive defensive block.
She's really one of those players that plays so far above her height, you know, and talking to, especially in the college season, every team you talk to about guarding and marking Alika, you just say, we can't stop what she does. We have to just limit her options, and that's been the story around her as a player for years. And it looks like she's going to continue the trend. Looks like it's a similar defensive line for the All-Star. Recognize some faces out there.
Slattery centers to Applegate. It's interesting. We've really seen the Molly Brown offense distributing and spreading the disc around as Ashley Morgan drops the first open undercut. And the All-Stars are going to have a chance at another break. Steph Lim picking up near the backhand sideline. Stevie Miller shoots into the end zone, looking for Schrader, and Dina Slattery gets her hand on it, knocks that one away. Slattery's going to pick up with the disc on her own cone.
She's got Chastain back there with her and Paige Applegate. It's interesting to see Molly Brown has also been distributing a lot of the O and D points. There hasn't been set lines, which for many teams, they have very strict lines.
And
wow.
A ridiculous foot block from Megan Cousins on Claire Chastain, but looks like Cousins may have fouled Chastain. Perhaps the disc wasn't out of her hand yet. And the disc is going to come back to Chastain. Chastain trying to swing the disc. Looked like Franklin had a shot at that one, but Applegate is able to come down with it. Morgan looking down the field.
Another Franklin-Applegate matchup. Applegate won that one.
Over to Slattery. Crystal Davis wide open underneath. Finds Morgan. Back to Slattery. And Slattery is going to look into the end zone. Sally Lambert on the goal line. Trying to break the mark. Can't quite find her option. Resets to Chastain. Chastain less than 5 yards outside the end zone, and Crystal Davis, one of the faster cutters in the women's division,
Again,
beats her mark to the far side cone. And that is a victory for Molly Brown, handing the All-Stars their second loss of the tour, bringing their record to 2-2. And thank you very much to those of you who tuned in tonight. We also want to give a big shout out to the rest of our crew who helped facilitate this broadcast. We had Tyler Cable, Mario Bundy, and Angela Toki on the cameras. Suni Haley was operating our instant replay machine. Vin Bui was directing our broadcast, and Kevin Minderhout was our executive producer. So for Katie Reynolds, I'm Ian Toner. Thank you for tuning in to the Women's All-Star Ultimate Tour live stream.
Thanks, guys.
And we hope to see you at another venue along the tour. And we hope that you can continue to support the tour.